just reading the
All right,
comments.
Gary, I'm
Yes.
ready.
You ready?
Mhm.
All right. Please go for it, sir.
Let's see. All right, so I figured we'd just pick up where we left off. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So
Uh,
can you just give a recap, please? Just give us
yeah, I'll
some.
just give a quick recap. So we started with Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane.
What is our end? What is our goal? Like what are we trying to do?
Our goal is just to map out these dates in Joshua
Okay.
to see when these events took place.
Are we
And it also,
specifically talking about Passover?
yeah, we started with Passover. So if you watch last week's episode, we
Hmm.
start from Passover at Christ at the cross.
Okay.
And then
33
we
AD.
Yep. Then we used the tool to work backwards from 33 AD, and we got to 1447 BC, and we figured out Passover. Then we proved it had to be March 21st. I don't think we showed why it couldn't be the other one, but I think we did in another video.
Hmm.
So basically, we left off, if you recall, we left off at the date of March 31st for when this occurred right here. So this is Joshua 5 verse 10. Let's see. Let me
I'm
open this.
listening, Carl. Just have me excused. I'm listening. I just have
No,
to
no worries.
put
Yeah,
something up. I'm listening.
no worries. All right, so let me go to that year. So we're in the year 1407 BC, and we showed, based off Mr. Camping's work, when the events of Joshua took place. And so we had showed that, okay, March 22nd, that's the date that they had their last encampment and they made it to the Jordan River. And then we showed the third day, that would have been March 24th. They stayed there for 3 days. This was their last day. And then the 25th is when they crossed over. And Mr. Camping had noticed from 1440, let me pull this up. From the Passover in 1447 BC, the date is March 21st. And if you go to 1407, it's March 29th. That's an 8 day difference. Well, he noticed God maps out 8 days from when Joshua, they encamped at the Jordan River till the next Passover. And so he wanted to see if God was somehow showing the celestial clock as far as the solar calendar. Because the Bible's, we're very much familiar with the lunar calendar. The Bible's always given us lunar dates, right? It's based off the moon, like Nisan. But this would be based off the solar calendar. And so he basically proved we're on the right track with this because starting from 1447, if March 21st was the day that they celebrated Passover in 1447, and God highlights the day after Passover that they left, then he went exactly 40 years later to land on March 22nd. And we saw in the Bible that Joshua encamped for 3 days at Jordan. So you count this as day one, day two, day three. And then it says, on the morrow you shall pass over. So that would be the fourth day. And the Bible says that that happened on the 10th day of the first month. Well, that happens to line up with our calendar because here we have Nisan 10. That's the 10th day of the first month. And so we have an alignment. If we had used the other date and went forward, going back to 1447 BC, because remember, we can shift it forward or backwards. So if we had used the other date, it wouldn't have worked.
This is where I got a little confused. We talked about the synchronization between the two cycles of the moon phase and the day phase, correct?
Hmm.
And based on that synchronization, we find that there's an overlap. Now that overlap can go from as low as 2 days to as high as what, 28?
20, yeah, I've seen as high as 29 days. Yeah.
29.
And
And
that should,
why?
yeah.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
No, no, what was your question?
My question is, with this overlap, why is it that you can go forward or backwards? Is that just a mathematical thing, or
Yeah,
what?
because basically, when you look, so on this new, let me just pull this one up. I actually had laid out steps on this new updated one and kind of highlight the numbers a little better here. But there's actually an explanation for each step, which I didn't really include before,
Oh,
um, which kind of explains what's going on here. But basically, when you take the, so first we're just going to use 2011 as an example.
Hmm.
And step one now says years from 33 AD going forward to 2011. And so we get 1,978 years.
Okay.
Step two is we take those years and we times it by the tropical year. So we don't have to worry about leap years or anything like that. We're using the exact math and we're getting that many amount of days right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then step three is you take that many amount of days and you're dividing it into the average lunar month. So this is where the solar meets the lunar, you could say, because now we're taking the solar days and dividing it into the average lunar month. And that's giving us this important number of how many months that is.
Okay, so the moon is a timekeeper and the sun is a timekeeper.
Right. And we've already showed that the sun and the moon aren't perfectly aligned. A lunar year is 352 point something, and a solar year is 365.2422. So this way we're able to kind of sync up the two calendars, essentially, using this math. And so we arrive at this number for how many months that are in this many amount of days, 722,449. And then what we're doing is we're taking that leftover fractional month, which is after the dot. That's 0.43. I find it interesting because you can see a lot of significant numbers even after
I know.
I'm seeing 43, 23, 23, 52, 84.
Yeah, is that interesting?
Yeah, 43 is like a
Every number has spiritual significance. Every dual number does.
yeah. But so we're taking that fractional month. We want to see how many days is in this fractional month because this isn't a full month. 0.43. That's what the math is doing. We're kind of setting aside these other months right here. We just want to know what is this fractional month because that's important information. And so we take the fractional month and we times it by the average lunar month, and that tells us exactly how many days that is. It's 12.76 days. So now we know that that 0.4323235284 is exactly 12 days, 0.766. So it's roughly 13 days, right? And then we're just taking that number, that many amount of days, and minusing it against the average lunar month again, and that's giving us another set of days right here.
Mm.
And then that gives us a remainder. We're minusing it against there, and that gives us the remainder amount of days in the month. So that would be the remainder, would be 16.76 days. So then we take that number and we round it to 17 days. So now that we have this figure of 17 days, this is where we need to make a shift. We need to know how many days we need to shift the Gregorian date of March 31st. So remember, we're going from March 31st, 33 AD to March 31st of 2011. In this case, we're using the year 2011. And we can't just leave it like that because we have to align the solar with the lunar. There has to be a shift to get on track. That's why we do the shift. So we're going to go 17 days forward from March 31st. And when you do that, you arrive at April 17th. If we try to go 17 days backwards, this is where we have the option. You go 17 days forward from this date or 17 days backwards. And it's really a matter of seeing what matches up with the Bible. And what also, there's another rule where it can't fall before Passover. So it's a mathematical rule. So if we're on March 31st and we minus 17 days, we get to March 14th. Well, March 14th would be a date that occurred before the first Passover, which was March 21st. So it basically rules out going backwards. And so we go forward to Sunday, April 17th. Now, what's interesting is if you type in what day was Passover in 2011, the Jews have kept track of time fairly accurately because look, they have their Passover on April 18th. If you look on our calculation, it's at 17/18, right? So that shows you that the math is actually being done correctly. It's actually aligning with some years with what they've been keeping track of for many years, right?
And the reason why sometimes the modern Jewish Hebrew calendar is off is because they have these certain days where they will try to manipulate the calendar just for their ease of use for like holiday,
Yeah,
dismissal,
exactly. So they'll be right
school
some
days.
years. Yeah, and then some years due to that, you know, your postponement
And
rules.
we do that sometimes too. Like for example, if we have a business and the July 4th lands on a Saturday, we might send people home on a Friday or a Monday to
Yeah,
celebrate the holiday. So the banks, the schools can celebrate, even though the holiday falls on a weekend.
Yeah, and it's according to their traditions, they want to follow that, and I think they may even realize that it's not accurately keeping track of time. It's just so they can follow their what they want to follow. You know what I mean?
Right. And if you notice, we can go one day forward or one day backwards on a holiday. Some people might choose a Friday to celebrate, or they might choose a Monday, and no one really complains about that.
Yeah. Yep. So that's why you have that. Now, just going back to this, the Bible aligns. So what I meant by that shift is here we did a 17-day shift, but if you go back to 1447, it's a 10-day shift. If we had gone 10 days forward from March 31st, we'd land on April 10th. And I tried it, and it actually placed April 10th um, way after the date of Passover. It just didn't work. It didn't line up with the Bible. But when you do it this way, and we map out the 8 days, by the time we get to the 25th, it just lines up because the Bible tells us they crossed over on the 10th day of the first month. And so we're on the right track with this. Now, if you rewatch the last episode, it'll basically fill you in on the details if you didn't watch this. So
Mm.
then 4 days later, we know Passover occurs because if we're on the 10th, Passover is always on Nisan 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that aligns with our calculation. Our calculation has Passover on the 29th. Now, we took it a step further last time. We only have a few minutes, so we'll try to get a little farther. And that is, we actually landed on the date after Passover. So Passover occurred in 1407 on March 29th/30th. We actually found out there's a day after Passover, which God is highlighting, and that would be March 31st. And you can see that here. It says, and the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the, and they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover. So if we've determined that the Passover is March 29th/30th, because part of Nisan 14 is here, part of Nisan 14 is here. So that means the morrow after Passover would be March 31st. That would be Nisan 15, which again, God highlighted the day after Passover during the Exodus. That was the day that they actually exited the land. That was the day of the Exodus. And so this now God's highlighting that day after Passover again. And it just so happens that's March 31st. That's the same day that Christ was in the Garden of Gethsemane, which is interesting. So we're on March 31st. And then over here it says, and the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. So if they ate of the old corn of the land the day after Passover, which would be March 31st, well, this is another day. This would be the morrow after. So this would place it on April 1st, right? So the day after Passover, they eat the old corn of the land. But then here, God is saying, and the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten the old corn of the land. And so that places us on April 1st of 1407. And so I thought it was pretty interesting because if you keep going, this is when Joshua runs into the man with the sword drawn, and he asks, "Are thou for us or for our adversaries?" And this is God. He responds and says, "He's captain of the host of Jehovah." And so Joshua falls on his face, and we see something similar with Moses. Remember, God told Moses to loose his shoes, and take off his shoes because it was holy ground. So a similar thing is happening here. And then if we go to the next chapter, it immediately goes right into Jericho. It says Jericho was straitly shut up because the children of Israel, none went out, none came in. So there's no indication of a passage of time. And we see that they're going to go around the city for 6 days. Thus shalt thou do 6 days. So if this is the same day, right, where Joshua meets the captain of let's see what it says, so I don't get that wrong. It says, "In the captain of Jehovah's host." Yep. So that would have been April 1st, the day after they ate of the old corn of the land. That would be the morrow. And if they're going to go around Jericho, that would be 6 days. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I believe that would have been April 6th that they went around Jericho. So let's see. Let's go to that chapter. And you shall compass the city, all you men of war, and go round about the city once. Thou shalt do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram horns. And the 7th day you shall compass the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow with the trumpets. So the 7th day, I believe, would be April 7th. And that would be the day that they went around 7 times, which is
That's incredible.
kind of interesting. Yeah. And that's
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 incredible.
the that's what we used to show the 13,000th year of human history. If you add up 7 and 6, remember that equals 13. Jericho pictures the end of the church age, how the walls fell. And
And you know what? In order to test this out, we could punch that data into other time paths to see if we can break down into spiritual numbers.
Yeah, you'll see where this leads, because it actually leads to a very interesting date in just a moment. So if this was Jericho right here on the 7th, and of course I'm not saying this dogmatically, it just appears to be the case if you follow it through. Um, let's see. So this is when the city falls. So they go around Jericho, they're blowing the trumpets, and then finally we see that Rahab the harlot, she's saved alive. Um, Okay, and then Joshua says, "Cursed be the man before Jehovah that riseth up and buildeth the city Jericho." So then immediately afterwards, we get into Achan, who had committed that trespass, right? He had taken of a Babylonian garment. And so there's no indication of a passage of time. So this appears to also be taking place on the 7th when the walls fell, and now he's taken of the accursed thing, right?
You think so? Because wasn't there a battle and they
No,
lost a few men?
that didn't happen yet. So look,
Okay.
so they committed a trespass, right? And then it says, and Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai. So it appears like these are back-to-back battles. So as soon as Jericho falls, he's already sending men to Ai, right? Which is beside Beth Haven on the east side of Bethel, right? And the men went up and viewed Ai, and they returned to Joshua and said, "Let not all the people go up, but let about 2 or 3 thousand men go up and smite Ai." So they don't need all the men, right?
And it's interesting, two or three has to do with a word that's established.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So then you have about 3,000 men. So they go up, and this is when they start to get smitten before their enemies, right? And so Joshua rents his clothes, he falls to the earth. And notice it says he fell to the earth until the eventide. So that's letting us know this is until evening,
Right.
same day. So you can keep track of time this way, right? So it's still, I believe, the evening of the 7th that occurred. Let's see. And then this is when they take out Achan, right? They let them know somebody has sinned, and they find that it's him, right? Now notice this. They hung him in the evening. Let's see. Okay. Up, sanctify the people and say, "Sanctify yourselves against tomorrow, for thus saith Jehovah God of Israel, there is an accursed thing in the midst of thee." So notice they're going to take care of it on the morrow. That would be
Mm.
April 8th. And it says, "In the morning, therefore ye shall be brought according to your tribes." So they're saving it for the next day to
Right.
figure out who did it, April 8th, right? And so finally they find out Achan is cursed. And so Joshua rose up early in the morning. Um, so they're burnt with fire. So in the morning, therefore, you should be brought according to your tribes. Okay, so Joshua rose up early in the morning. I believe this would be April 8th, and brought Israel by their tribes, and the tribe of Judah was taken. And if we keep going down, we see Achan had taken it. And then finally, you'll see right about here. Uh, so Israel stoned him with stones and burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones. And they raised over him a great heap of stones unto this day. Um, okay. And then, yeah, so that happened in the morning, right, of April 8th, because they did that in the morning. Um, again, they go back up, arise, go up to Ai, right? They take care of the city. Um, yeah, we've run out of time, so we'll probably have to pick it up next time because it's already 8 o'clock. But you'll see there's more time references that help us to map this out. So I guess next time we'll pick up from next Sunday. We'll pick up from April 8th and see where we get to.
Yeah, it's very helpful.